The rain was coming down hard that night in 1998. A flickering neon sign buzzed outside the Sunset Inn, a rundown motel along a lonely Texas highway. The world seemed asleep, except for the crying of a newborn, echoing faintly under the storm. Tom and Maggie Dawson had just finished their late shift at the diner nearby. Maggie, exhausted, insisted they stop for coffee before heading home. That small decision would change their lives forever. As Tom stepped out of the car, his flashlight cut through the sheets of rain, and there she was. A tiny baby wrapped in a pale pink blanket, soaked but still breathing. Her cries were weak, yet desperate, as if she refused to give up. Maggie gasped, rushing forward. "Oh my God, Tom, someone left her here." They called 911, but by the time the sheriff arrived, no one else was in sight. The motel clerk hadn't seen anything. No vehicle descriptions, no surveillance cameras, just that one small bundle of life. On the edge of the blanket, stitched in fading blue thread, were the words, "Forever loved." The police searched for weeks, but no one came forward. No missing person report matched the baby. No mother appeared. The Dawsons, unable to have children of their own, offered to foster her, and soon after, officially adopted her. They named her Lila. Growing up, Lila heard the story of how she was found countless times. She'd imagined the storm, the glowing sign, and the mysterious blanket that had carried her into the world of the Dawsons. She loved her parents deeply, but sometimes, late at night, she'd whisper to herself, "Who left me there? And why?" Years passed. Lila grew into a kind-hearted, bright young woman. She studied nursing, inspired by her mother's empathy and her father's quiet strength. Her life seemed full, yet she carried that small, invisible hole, a question that never healed. At 27, Lila worked at a busy Dallas hospital. Her patients loved her calm voice and gentle hands. But on an ordinary Tuesday, everything changed. A man was rushed into the ER after a car accident, mid-40s, unconscious, covered in tattoos and road dust. As Lila cleaned the blood from his arm, she froze. There, inked on his forearm in delicate cursive letters, were the same words she'd seen all her life. Forever loved. Her chest tightened. Her fingers trembled. It couldn't be. Could it? She stared at the tattoo, her heart racing, memories flooding back. The blanket, the rain, the words that had defined her whole identity, and now they were marked on a stranger's skin. When the man finally regained consciousness, Lila couldn't stop herself. She asked softly, "Excuse me, sir, your tattoo. What does it mean?" The man's eyes flickered open, confusion clouding his face. "It's for my sister," he murmured weakly. "She disappeared when she was just a baby." Lila felt her knees weaken. The room seemed to spin. Her mind screamed, "It can't be possible. Can it?" But deep down, she already knew. Something had just shifted. The past she'd buried her whole life was about to break wide open. If you were Lila, would you have asked more questions? Or kept it to yourself until you were sure? Tell us in the comments below. Lila couldn't stop thinking about the tattoo. Forever loved. The same words that had been stitched into her baby blanket, the only clue to who she really was. The man with the tattoo, Ethan Cole, lay unconscious in room 214. His chart said he was 45, injured in a car crash, local, no ID found. But that name, Cole, echoed in her mind like thunder. When he finally woke, Lila approached carefully. "You said the tattoo is for your sister," she asked softly. "What happened to her?" Ethan's eyelids fluttered. "She was taken," he muttered. "Mama said she disappeared outside a motel during a storm. The police never found her." His breathing steadied, then slowed. "I was just a kid." Lila froze. A motel. A storm. The same night she'd been found. After her shift, she drove to her parents' house. The Dawsons were sitting on the porch, still as kind as the day they'd found her. "Mom," she said quietly, "can I see the blanket?" Maggie went to the cedar chest and lifted out the old pink fabric. The embroidered words, "Forever loved," were faded, but still graceful. And at the end of the final D, there was a tiny stitched heart. "I never noticed that before." Lila whispered. Tom looked up from his coffee. You've been quiet about it for years, honey. What's this about? I saw the same words today, she said, tattooed on a man's arm. They stared at her. Maggie's eyes filled with worry. Do you think it means something? I don't know, Lila answered. But I think I need to find out. That night, unable to sleep, she searched online. Sunset Inn, 1998 baby found. A few old newspaper clippings appeared, most with broken links. One article mentioned a storm-stranded infant found outside a rural motel. The date matched her adoption record. Then she found an old forum post from 2007. Someone had written, looking for info about a housekeeper named Marisol Vega, disappeared near the Sunset Inn in '98. She embroidered baby blankets. Always used the phrase, forever loved. Lila's heart pounded. The next morning, Ethan was awake again. She checked his chart, pretending calm. Do you remember your sister's name? He frowned. Mama never said, just called her, my baby. We got this tattoo for her. Me and my aunt. Said it might help us feel close to her again. Just then, the door opened. A woman in her late 50s stepped in, tall, tired eyes, janitor's badge still pinned to her shirt. Ethan, she gasped. You scared us half to death. Lila smiled politely. You must be his aunt. The woman nodded. Ana Vega. When Ana reached for Ethan's hand, her sleeve slipped back, revealing a small tattoo on her wrist. Forever loved, with the same heart tucked into the final letter. Lila felt her breath catch. Your tattoo? Where did you get it? Ana glanced at her wrist. My sister made it, she said softly. She used to embroider those words on baby gifts for friends. She disappeared 27 years ago. Some say she ran. I say she didn't. What was her name? Lila asked. Marisol. The name echoed through Lila like lightning. Ana hesitated, studying her. Why are you asking? Lila took out her phone and showed her a photo. Her baby blanket, the same delicate stitching, the same heart. Ana's eyes widened, her hands flew to her mouth. Where did you get that? It was wrapped around me, Lila whispered. When they found me outside the Sunset Inn. Ethan turned pale. Ana's lips trembled. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Ana said, voice shaking, Child, I think you're her. Before Lila could respond, the door opened again. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped in, eyes sharp, voice commanding. Ethan, he said coolly, we need to talk. Lila turned, and the man's last name on his badge made her blood run cold. Cole Roofing. The air in the hospital room seemed to freeze. The man's presence shifted everything. Polished shoes, sharp tone, and an authority that felt out of place among white walls and heart monitors. Ethan, he said again, his voice deep and deliberate. You weren't supposed to talk to anyone about the past. Not after everything we agreed on. Lila's pulse quickened. Ethan looked away, shame flickering across his face. I didn't say anything, Mr. Cole, he murmured. Mr. Cole. The name hit Lila like a wave. She recognized the surname, the same one printed on Ethan's chart. But this man was older, maybe late 50s, with slicked back gray hair and eyes that gave away nothing. His badge confirmed it. Robert Cole, owner of Cole Roofing and Construction. Ana stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. You don't get to show up here and act like you still own us, she snapped. Robert smiled coldly. Ana, after all these years, I see you still love drama. I came to check on my nephew, that's all. Your nephew? Lila repeated quietly. Robert's gaze landed on her. Calculated. Assessing. And you are? I'm his nurse, she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. He nodded slowly. Then maybe you should stick to nursing and leave family matters alone. The silence that followed was heavy. Lila felt her skin crawl under his stare. Something about this man radiated control, the kind that made people disappear. After he left, Ana exhaled shakily. That man, she said, is poison. My sister worked for him back then, cleaning his motel rooms, ironing his shirts. When she got pregnant, he told everyone she'd ruined her life. Are you saying, Lila hesitated, that he's my... No, Anna interrupted firmly. He's not your father, but he's the reason you never met your mother. Lila's heart pounded. What do you mean? Anna sank into a chair. Marisol was proud, stubborn. When she got pregnant, she refused to say who the father was. Robert didn't like that. He wanted her gone before anyone started talking. One night, she came to my apartment crying, said she was scared that someone had followed her. The next morning, she was gone. They said she left town, but I never believed it. Ethan stared at the blanket photo on Lila's phone. If you were found outside the motel that same night, he said quietly, then maybe she didn't run. Maybe she was trying to save you. The room blurred. Lila pressed a hand to her mouth. My mother, trying to save me. The thought burned through her chest. Grief and gratitude tangled together. That night, back in her apartment, Lila spread the pink blanket across her bed. The faded embroidery glowed softly under the lamp, the tiny heart now impossibly significant. She searched online again, Robert Cole, Sunset Inn, 1998, and found an archived article about a fire that had destroyed part of the motel that same year. The owner was listed as Robert Cole. The fire was ruled accidental. No victims were officially recorded. But what if someone was there? The next day, Lila drove out to the ruins of the old motel. The sign still stood, crooked, half buried in weeds. The word sunset, barely visible beneath years of rust. She stepped out of the car, wind tugging at her hair. The ground was uneven, scattered with broken bricks and wildflowers. And there, half buried near what used to be the front office, she saw something glint in the dirt. She knelt down and brushed away the soil. A silver pendant, shaped like a tiny heart. The same shape stitched into the tail of the D on her blanket. Her breath caught. This wasn't just coincidence anymore. Someone had been here, her mother, and someone had tried very hard to erase her. But Lila wasn't going to let that happen. Not again. Would you go back to confront Robert Cole, or keep searching quietly? Tell us in the comments. Lila held the tiny heart pendant in her palm, the metal cool against her skin. She knew without question that it had belonged to her mother. Every instinct screamed it. But what haunted her most wasn't what she'd found. It was what might still be buried there. Back in her car, she stared at the faded motel ruins through the windshield. The sun dipped low, painting the Texas sky in bruised shades of orange and violet. This was where her life had begun, and where her mother's might have ended. That night, she met Anna and Ethan at a quiet diner outside of town. They sat in a booth by the window, whispering like fugitives. Lila placed the pendant on the table. Anna's eyes filled instantly. That was Marisol's, she breathed. She never took it off. I'd know that little heart anywhere. Lila nodded. I found it at the motel site. Ethan leaned forward, jaw tight. If that place burned down, maybe someone was trying to cover something up. Anna looked around, lowering her voice. I always thought that fire wasn't an accident. Robert had money, insurance, and friends in uniform. He could have made anything disappear. The word disappear hung between them like smoke. Lila exhaled slowly. Then we need proof. Ethan frowned. Proof of what? It's been 27 years. Proof of who I am, she said. Proof of what really happened to my mother. The next day, she went to the county records office. Old property files, police reports, fire department logs, all yellowed, dusty, forgotten. Hours passed. Her hands trembled as she flipped through faded papers until she found it. Fire report, Sunset Inn, June 1998. Cause, electrical malfunction. No casualties recorded. But beneath that, scribbled faintly in pen, unidentified female remains. Removed before official investigation. Lila's heart stopped. Someone had known. Someone had hidden it. She snapped a photo, printing a copy before the clerk could ask questions. That night, she showed it to Anna and Ethan. Anna's tears fell onto the paper. They said she ran, she whispered. All these years they said she ran away. Ethan stared at the report. So they lied to all of us. Lila clenched her fists. Robert Cole lied. Anna hesitated. You can't confront him, he's powerful, he still has people who protect him. I'm not looking for revenge, Lila said. I just want the truth. But when she got home, there was an envelope taped to her door. No address, no name. Inside, a single photograph, her mother, standing outside the motel, smiling down at a baby wrapped in a pink blanket. On the back, written in shaky handwriting, she loved you. She never left you. Lila's throat closed. She sank to the floor, tears finally breaking free. For the first time, she wasn't crying for the girl abandoned outside a motel. She was crying for the woman who had risked everything to keep her alive. The next morning, she drove straight to Robert Cole's office. He looked startled when she walked in, then forced a smile. Miss Dawson, isn't it? Or should I call you something else now? Lila placed the pendant and the photo on his desk. You knew my mother. He didn't deny it. He just stared at the photo, his jaw tightening. Some stories, he said finally, are better left buried. Not this one, Lila replied. You buried her, but you didn't bury the truth. Robert stood, his voice low and menacing. You think anyone will believe you? You have a pretty story, that's all. Lila held his gaze. No, she said softly. I have proof. For the first time, the confident mask slipped from his face. He looked older, smaller, afraid. She turned and walked out, the pendant warm in her hand. Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain again. This time, she didn't feel lost. She felt ready. The next few days passed in a blur. News of the confrontation had spread quietly through town. Whispers in diners, murmurs at the hospital. People said Robert Cole looked shaken for the first time in decades. But for Lila, none of that mattered. She wasn't after revenge. She wanted truth and peace. She met Anna and Ethan again at the diner on Friday morning. Anna held a folded newspaper. They reopened the investigation, she said, her voice trembling. A local journalist called me. Someone sent them that photo you had, the one of Marisol. Lila blinked in disbelief. Someone sent it? Anna nodded. No name, just the picture and a note saying, Justice is 27 years late. They're comparing the pendant and the blanket now. It's official, Lila. They've confirmed it. You're Marisol Vega's daughter. The world tilted. For a moment, Lila couldn't breathe. Then the tears came. Quiet, unstoppable, the kind that cleans decades of silence. Anna reached for her hand. She would have been proud of you, she said softly. She fought so hard to keep you safe, even when she had no power left. Ethan smiled faintly. Guess we finally found her. Lila squeezed his hand. No, she said. We found each other. The following week, a small memorial was held at the field where the old motel once stood. A handful of locals came, old workers, neighbors who still remembered the storm of '98, and a few strangers who had seen Lila's story online. The sun dipped low as Lila knelt beside the wildflowers. She placed the pendant in the soil, right where she'd found it, and laid her pink blanket beside it. She never left you, Anna whispered behind her. Lila smiled through her tears. And I'll never leave her. They stood together as the wind stirred warm and gentle, carrying the scent of rain. Somewhere in that rustle of air, Lila swore she could hear her mother's voice, faint but real, forever loved. That night, Lila returned home to a quiet apartment. She sat by the window with her phone in hand, scrolling through the dozens of messages she'd received after her story reached social media. People from all over the country had written, I was adopted too. Your story gives me hope. Thank you for reminding me to keep searching. She smiled. The girl who once cried herself to sleep asking who she was had finally answered that question. Not with DNA or records, but with truth, family, and faith. Weeks later, she met Ethan and Anna again for dinner. They'd decided to reopen Marisol's embroidery business together, this time in her memory. The sign above the shop window read, in soft cursive letters, Forever Loved Stitchworks. When they turned on the lights for the first time, the glow filled the street. Lila stood outside, heart full. Do you think she'd like this? Ethan asked. Lila nodded. She'd love it, because she'd know we turned her pain into something beautiful. As they locked up for the night, Anna wrapped her arm around Lila's shoulders. Family isn't just who we're born to, she said. It's who we choose to fight for. Lila smiled. And who chooses to love us back. She looked up at the sky, the same one that had once rained on her the night she was left outside a motel. Only now, it didn't look dark anymore. It looked endless. Love cannot be erased. Not by time, not by lies, not even by loss. Truth always finds its way home. What would you have done in Lila's place? Would you forgive, or would you fight for justice? Tell us in the comments. Your voice matters. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Every story deserves to be heard.